Cloaked in the shadow, cloaked in the shadow, cloaked in the shadow.
Okay, Amanda, what are we doing today?
We're doing Cloaked in the Shadows.
What is Cloaked in the Shadows?
It's a podcast about anything that's strange, supernatural, unexplained.
Yeah, this is our very first episode as well. And to give you the full blurb, of course, Cloaked in the Shadows is a new series for me and you, isn't it?
Yes.
I am Andy N.
I'm Amanda Nicholson.
We are both writers, artists, various creative people in the Manchester, UK area, aren't we?
Yeah.
Cloaked in the Shadows is a new podcast because we've both got an interest in the unexplained, the unusual, the extraordinary, and what's the last one? The downright weird.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Especially like the downright weird.
Well, no. What we're going to do with this podcast is obviously certainly for the first episode, and all being well, Amanda, isn't it? On future episodes, we're going to have news first of all. We've both been researching bits of news. We're going to go through them, and I don't know what Amanda's going to say, and you don't know what I'm going to say, do you? So
No.
now, on top of that as well, we've also got plans, haven't we, as well, to have a guest on every episode.
Yeah.
So, but what we're going to do first of all, on top of the news first of all, and then we'll go into who our first guests are. Yeah? Right, on to the news then, okay? And the news is, these are various bits of news I've been reading up on recently. So we're going to take it in turns, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, my first bit of news was, on the Star, fairly recently, after the other week. In the Star, first of all, okay, there's a Morecambe-based writer who went on the 7th of December called Simon Lewis.
Okay.
And claims he has evidence of UFOs and Martians on the moon. Now, he claims he's got photographs, and a lot of photographs, and none of these we've been able to pick up online yet. And including one where he claimed he has a photograph taken during the Apollo Mission 60 in 1972, which appears to show a mile-long, cigar-shaped object, thought to be a base, hidden inside a crate.
Ooh.
What do you think?
Until I actually see it, it didn't happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of this because he's basically claiming they've been doing this for 30 odd years. But the articles online, there's no photographs come yet, so whether he's afraid to show them,
yeah,
who knows? But he's done a few books, so who knows? Right, all that. And you?
Okay, so I came across an article in The Independent, and the headline was "Scientists find new water worlds that look nothing like any other planet in our solar system."
So these water worlds, just to clarify then, that these are another solar system, aren't they, I presume?
I'm assuming in our solar system.
So
it just says they don't look anything like any other planet in our solar system.
Yeah, because there's been a big announcement, I guess, against the 10th Planet X. It must be another solar system.
There's one of the scientists, which I'm hoping I've pronounced this right, called Bjorn Benecke, and he said previously we thought that planets were a bit larger than Earth, or big balls of metal and rock, like scaled up versions of Earth, and that's why we called them super Earths. However, we have now shown that these two planets, Kepler 138c and D, are quite different in nature. A big fraction of their entire volume is likely composed of water. It is the first time we observe planets that can be confidently identified as water worlds, a type of planet that was theorized by astronomers to exist for a long time. And then later on in the article as well, it also says it would be too hot for habitation. But I'm assuming that means for us. It's like if there was some kind of native life there, it's like they could be different to us, so they might be able to habit it perfectly okay.
Yeah, I think that's the common trick to say about anything, isn't it? Because, like, you think they found plant evidence there was life in Mars, wasn't they? One of Jupiter's moons, in Catalino, had got a frozen ocean. So it's like life may not exist in this solar system the way ours is. But there is talk going around in time to come for Venus, for example. It might be to do colonisation of it, where they actually change the temperature. That could be another alternative if this Earth becomes uninhabitable, doesn't it? So, yeah, interesting. What do you know about robotic technology?
Not an awful lot. I've not met too many robots.
This is an interesting one that's come up in the news recently as well. There's It's one of the most interesting software programs for impersonating humans has recently got released to the public called Chat GPT. And such of its appeal, within days of its launch, only the other week, the boss of the artificial intelligence company behind the chatbot tweeted, this is through Twitter of course, that 1 million people have logged onto it within a week. And you think really like, something like, obviously, Facebook and Spotify, they've taken months to build that up, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is interesting because it's Chat GPT can generate jokes. It can even craft undergraduate essays.
Wish I'd been around when I was doing my degrees.
I know, that's helped me as well. And can create computer code from a short writing prompt. Like it's really, really interesting. It's like it was like.
But there's AI technology out there that's like content for you as a content writer.
Yeah, this I think is the next stage of it where it's like you didn't really you want about we often get like dodgy phone calls, do you, for computer voices.
Oh yeah.
Who's not to say going forward in the future? So the next version is company using this as well. Really, really interesting this find yourself. But what they've done is in with it actually was the actual bot itself been trained using a machine learning technique called reinforcement learning from human feedback, which is RLHF. And it's interesting really because like it was the version of the bot available for public testing can understand questions posed by users and responds with in-depth answers resembling human written text in a conventional format. So it shows you really, doesn't it, with in the way technology is constantly evolving.
Yeah. Okay, so my next news is UFO sighting, where strange lights were seen not moving in the sky in High Wycombe.
Tell us more then.
I've seen the picture of this and I've looked at like some of the suggestions, that some people were suggesting it was Chinese lanterns or the RAF helicopters, but it looked like it was taken through a glass window to me, and like it could be like the lights, like if you're looking out in the sky and it stopped. I think it wasn't dark, but it was sort of a bit grey and murky, and you got the light on. I think it would reflect the window, and it looked more like the two lights from the room to me.
It's always a tricky one when you get these UFO sightings, really. Until you can actually get a picture of, I'm horrible saying this, a Martian swinging a can with you in the back garden.
It's always really fitting. It could be something else. It's like I'm waiting for the photograph, like Independence Day style, when you actually see the craft and the beam and could it be beamed up or a cow or something, and then I'll believe it.
Yeah, it's a really, really tricky one, like I said. It's, but I do. Let me ask you a question. Do you actually believe there is life out there?
Definitely, but I just don't think a lot of the photographs that we see are genuine.
No, I personally think a lot of it, like I said, it's the way the media's done it, and I think it is changing a lot. I've noticed this with the reports, when a lot of the reports used to mock people, didn't they, anything unusual. Nowadays, the way the press are doing it, I think they seem to treat the audience with more intelligence, don't they?
Yeah, but as a B-side to that as well, I also came across an article in my old local newspaper in Bradford called Telegraph and Argus, and there was like a white sort of circle, you know, like when you get a plane, and it moves like the trail behind. Yeah, it was like that, but it was circular, like circled round, but there was no sign of a plane, as if like there'd been like a big circular shape there, and then it just vanished or something. And it was interesting because it was on a place called Tom Street, and I recognised it because I used to live across the road from there.
But you know, whoa!
In one of the worst bedsits I've ever lived in.
that is unexplained. How you put over it? Let's look at that. Yeah, I was kind of, oh, it's interesting. I didn't know every day, don't you? Okay, more robots now. Did you hear about what happened in San Francisco recently?
No.
Well, at one point they were going to be releasing robots as police, and the robots in question were actually going to the plan at one point was to arm the robots with guns.
Oh yeah, because what could possibly go wrong?
Oh no. Well, it's not the first time it's happened now. It has happened in Texas 15 years ago. They got stage third, but that got pulled pretty quick as well.
Yeah.
That's why. So I like it was some of the things that comments from they got pulled on some of the supervisors. They said they felt the public did not have enough time to engage in the discussion on whether robots could be used to kill people before the board first voted the other week on it. And it's terrible, it's terrifying to think that really, but it's sooner or later you're going to find, aren't you, where society's going. Robots will be the norm. Now that's yeah. Well, no, but I know we're taking the mic a bit here, but it's the way technology is going. I said for the other robots and stuff, there is change coming in society. It's going to be an interesting next, probably people beyond my generation, maybe yours as well, man, to see how technology
I hope I'm
evolves.
not around it. That sounds terrifying.
Sometimes it goes to kind of does really. So. Right, okay. Have you got some more news for us?
I do. I have a final piece of news, which is astronomers have discovered that a strange dwarf galaxy hidden for years in our cosmic neighbourhood looks like it belongs in the early universe despite having formed more recently. And I can read a little bit from there.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
It says the tiny galaxy measuring just 1,200 light years across and earned the nickname Peekaboo because it was hidden in the bright glare of a fast-moving foreground star and only emerged between 50 and 100 years ago. The dwarf galaxy is located around 22 million light years from Earth. It is the constellation of Hydra. Its strange appearance was confirmed using the Hubble Space Telescope after it showed up in observations from space and ground-based telescopes, and that was published in space.com.
Interesting. Oh, interesting. It's space.com, whoever's done it. I've been on that website before. It's a fantastic website. It gives you all kinds of interesting bits of news, doesn't it? Stuff like that. Yeah, no, what do you think then? Do you believe what has happened?
Yeah, I think there's so much out there that we don't know about, and we've not discovered yet.
Yeah, you think about it, in my opinion, when you look and talk about space, is really like, we are basically children. Aren't we? Considering at the moment that they're talking about getting a moon-based setup now, aren't they? Over the next couple of years, and hope to be in a colony in Mars in 10 years. So we had the first man on the moon in 1969, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
The records do show that. It's fascinating. In fact, it took us over 50 years to get to that stage now and build something set up. So it's going to be interesting times for that, straight away. So, okay. On to Reuters.com now, and I do love Reuters. I used to have a friend who used to work at Reuters as a news organisation. They had a feature on there the other day about a Filipino artist called Elder Circular. And the article basically said the artist has blood on their hands, literally, to create art with.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's animal blood.
Her blood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what's slightly better than like murdering people and then doing art with their blood.
Yeah,
it's illegal.
It's very nice. I've never heard of Art Allison one. I thought it was an interesting one, just plain weird to finish off with today.
I don't know how I'd feel about purchasing art that's made of someone's blood and having it hanging on the wall.
Yeah, I'll read a bit more of the article. It's cool. I've got a couple of paragraphs that's worth hearing about. It's okay. Using blood taken from his own veins, the 52-year-old produces canvas paintings that have been drawn both praise and criticism because of his usual choice of medium. Born in a low-income household with little access to school supplies and art material, the artist has explored different meanings, including plums and tomatoes, but when it was started, he scraped himself as a young boy at his fascination with using blood for gas.
Oh.
Yeah, I could, unfortunately, with this being audio today, I could, if you hadn't the video, I'd show you some of the pictures. And it's not, the best way to put it would be is they're not ones to watch at when you're eating.
No.
It's definitely something. Look, check them out. Check the artists out. The artwork really, really fascinating. I quite enjoyed it, but it's
I'm just thinking you can only really do so much at a time, though, can't you? Because you can't do loads of paintings because you'll pass out and then die because you've only got so much blood.
What the artist does actually, it's not bad as it sounds, don't you? He goes to the town's health clinic once every 3 months to have his blood extracted using increments of 500 ml, which is 17 ounces, which is stored in a cooler in his studio for future projects.
Right. Okay.
That's why, and you want to have a quote from him about this? I've got to read a quote from him. My artwork is very important to me because they come from me. It's my blood. My DNA is part of it. My philosophy is that life is a circle and everything is a cycle. So my blood is a tool that serves a reminder of where I came
Right, okay then.
from. Really? That's really, really interesting, actually, that thought. I said this, that's what I wanted to try and do with Cloaked and Shadow. I know you did as well.
Yeah.
I've got a big
We've
fan.
definitely got the weird part, though.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I've got a big interest in technology. I do love space. Like, what sort of interest? Just so people know for future Monday, what sort of fields are you going to be exploring more?
I am really interested in reincarnation, which I've not mentioned at all there, because I've not really come across any recent news articles.
Yeah, it's anybody's in that's got any prepared to come on the podcast to talk about that. I would love to talk to them about that. And I said, like, I love robotics and technology. I'm also a big fan of space as well. I do love ghost stories, and I'm going to pull some clues from them for next time, because I've got the two people I need to talk to about that. Well, I said it's beyond being the podcast man. I said is we want to that's just a couple of quick examples, really, today, isn't it? So,
yeah, and if anyone wants to come on who understands the space stories better and discuss what they actually mean in depth, because we don't pretend to be experts, do we?
that we're enthusiastic amateurs, right? Well, okay. Well, that's it on there now. We're going to now go on to our first guest, aren't we, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was actually recorded a couple of weeks ago. Can't reveal for various reasons where it was recorded on location. This one on my phone, so the quality isn't quite as good as it really, Georgie, has been on Zoom or in our studio. But it features two people we know called Dave and Catherine. And Dave and Catherine, who are Dave and Catherine?
They're a couple.
Yeah, they're people we've both known for quite some time. They're friends of ours, and they've both got stories to tell. Over to Dave and Catherine.
Cloaked in the shadows.
Catherine, tell us first of all what you just told me about before.
Well, I've lived in this house for, I think it's 14 and a half years now.
Cloaked in the shadows.
Originally it was my grandparents' home and I was brought up here. And since I've lived here as an adult, because I lived here as a child, we've had a few strange occurrences happen here, haven't we?
Mm-hmm. We have.
Do you want to explain a couple of things first, and then maybe I could?
Well, I remember once when we had the other cats with us. I was in the kitchen, and I saw, as I was coming in, I saw a black tail disappear down the side of the settee. And so I thought, oh, that's the other cat.
Yeah.
So I said, just hang on a minute, I'll let you out. Because that door, the door leading into the hall had shut, and it couldn't open it. So as I came out of the kitchen to open the door, there was no cat there.
Now, obviously, we have to clarify, was that possibly your cat?
My original cat.
Baldrick?
Yeah, that was my original.
Now, obviously, Baldrick died a few years before that, didn't he? So, yeah.
You assumed it was...
I assumed it was our cat, but...
it was alive at the time,
we think I think it might have been Catherine's old cat.
Original cat.
Who also had a black tail.
Oh.
Yes.
But there was no cat. When I went to open the door to let the cat out, there was no cat there.
Interesting. Yeah, I've read stories before where they say that it's not just humans that they reckon are apparitions, are they? So that's a clear example of animals, isn't it? But,
yeah. And I've also felt a cat jump on the bed.
Yes, I have as well.
Tell us about that then, yeah, because you told me about that on the phone the week, Dave.
I was just lying in bed one night, and I just felt a cat actually jump on the bed and settle down. So I moved my legs to give it to make room for them, but there was no cat there.
Wow. Well, do you reckon, could that have been Baldrick as well then?
Probably. I would think so.
It would only be one cat, wouldn't it?
Because our other cat was alive at the time. I think. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was definitely alive at the time. My original cat had died a few years prior to this, and we were very, very close.
Yeah. Now, if anyone comes to obviously this house, we're not going to give the address away, like I said.
No.
But you can see, people look at this, you can see two pictures by the fireplace here. And people can see it, Catherine, you holding this picture, can't you, of your cat Baldrick. You can see the love between the pair of you straight away.
We were very, very close. Very, very close. We had a very deep connection. And obviously when he died, it wasn't, wasn't nice at all, and it took me quite some time to get over it, as you would imagine.
Yeah. They always say the thing with animals, don't they? Like I've had it before where you get like it's two trains of thought with this really. One, that the animal's still there for you, like a spirit figure, innit? But you also say that, so I've heard the other one saying like of couches and chairs and stuff, where they're, what's the word for it I'm looking for? Do you know what I mean, Amanda? Where they say their impressions left on it, innit?
Like an echo.
Like an echo, that's it, yeah. An echo can be left on there sometimes.
Oh, like
residual energy.
Residual energy.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's a friend of ours, obviously. Like, I know she's had that problem with my grandmum, and I'll talk to her about another episode. So, but yeah. So, and did you say there was another story you want to tell us about?
Oh, there's one or two. There's a few. I'm trying to think where on earth to start. I could have imagined this, but as a child, because I was brought up in this house, and there was one time I went in the front room, which we don't use now, but we did then when I was a kid. We used to have it as like a second sitting room.
Oh yeah, well that's back in those previous generations.
Yeah, we're going back to the 80s really. And I remember going into that room by myself, and I think my granddad and I think my parents might have been in here as well. I can't remember now. And I heard someone say my name. No, I couldn't say if it was male or female, but I heard someone say my name. And at the time I didn't think anything of it. But then about a year or two ago, I went in the front room and I was upset about something. I can't remember what on earth it was. And I heard someone say my name again. Catherine, it said.
That's weird.
What else has happened here? Oh my goodness.
Well, back in the bedroom, I've heard somebody say a name. I can't remember now whether it's my name or your name.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
That's just one occasion.
Exclusive.
Well, you didn't tell me that. When did this happen?
It was going back some years.
Right.
But you look at this. How old is this house? Because
I believe it was built in the early 1920s.
So you're looking at early, aren't you? 100 years old.
Yeah, almost. What else have we... that's another thing I remember. Well, there's a few other things I'm going to mention. When my dad was ill quite a few years ago. He had like a heart attack, and obviously my dad and I are very close. We always have been. And when he was in hospital, I remember coming home and being really, really upset. And this was I think it was a Saturday morning, and I think I was still living on my own at that point. And I came downstairs in the morning and I sat down, and I had a lamp there, just like the one that we've got now, only it was a different colour, and it was flickering. And there was no reason for it to flicker, because I was terrified at the time that the hospital had said that my dad might not pull through because he had this heart attack, and if he did pull through, he could be brain damaged.
Yeah, of course.
None of that happened, thankfully, but that's what we were told. So I had the lights flickering. There were a couple of times when the mantelpiece used to be a lot tidier than it is now. A hell of a lot tidier. But we went to Huddersfield once, didn't we? Just for a trip out.
We had a bride and groom.
We had skeleton
figures
a gothic little figurines, I suppose. We used to have one on one side of the clock and one on the other side of the clock, and we also had 2 black candles with, I think they were yellow pentagrams on them, didn't we?
Yeah, like we got on the coasters.
Yeah, and we came home from Huddersfield, and he said, "Oh, Catherine, come in here quick." Oh, okay. And was it one of the figurines on its back?
It was the gentleman.
Yeah, the groom.
It was at an angle, leaning against the wall.
Yeah.
Now
the clock had moved slightly as well.
But the cats never go on the mantelpiece.
Well, they can't.
Never ever.
They couldn't get
been on the mantelpiece.
No. And one of the candles had moved because whoever it was had turned it slightly so that you couldn't see the pentagram on it, which was a bit odd.
That's weird.
That is weird, because I remember saying to you, "Are you sure you're not messing about?" And you went, no, it's not me.
Yeah. Everyone's wondering how Dave is capable of it. Not in this case, I don't think.
No, as soon as I came in, I saw it.
Yeah, and he was like, "Catherine, come in here, quick," sort of thing.
And it's not that sort of ornament that...
No.
That it's very easy to break.
Yeah.
I have got photographic evidence.
We have got
somewhere as
the.
well.
We have still got the
I've
ornaments
still got them,
upstairs.
but they're
I
upstairs.
know your grandparents used to live in this house before
Yes.
you, Catherine, didn't they?
Yes,
So
they did.
when did they move in here?
Oh, crikey, that's a bloody good question, that. I believe it was the very early 70s.
Yeah, so if you look back, that's 50 odd years ago.
Mm.
So there could have been likely have been a couple of families in before that, then probably
There
wouldn't
were,
there? So,
yeah, I did actually manage to read the deeds once for the house. Going back to, I think it was 1924, I think. Now, whether it was to do with that or not, I don't know. But, incidentally, I did have a medium in the house once, about, 5-6 years ago. And at the time, we still had these aforementioned figurines on the mantelpiece and a few other things. And the medium who came round, it was really bizarre because, first of all, he told me that, because I didn't say a word, you're not supposed to say anything, they're supposed to be talking. And he said to me, oh yeah, your grandparents lived here and they were foreign. And I said, that's correct. And he actually pinpointed where in the world they were from and the region, which was like, wow, that's like, ooh. But he also said, there's quiet discontent here. I said, oh, what do you mean? He said, well, they don't like how you've decorated the house. So, oh, that's interesting. And I think what he was referring to was these figurines because they were quite gothic, weren't they?
Yeah.
And what have you. My gran also hated the colour black because she associated it with death.
well, I suppose you look at where they come from, probably was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It probably was. He said there's quite discontent here. They don't like what you've done with the house. Okay, fair enough. And since we sort of moved those ornaments, because I think they're upstairs now in the unit, so I bought the two things that we've got now, which are just basically planters.
Yeah.
We've had nothing, man, you will probably won't be able to tell now because the mantelpiece is a bit of a tip. But we've never had anything weird since where that's concerned. What else? I'm trying to think what else has happened here. There's probably things I've forgotten.
Just wisps of. You
Oh,
see something.
Well,
Yeah.
you say you've seen things in the corner of your eye before, haven't
Yes, I've seen, because usually I sit where Amanda's sat currently, and when it's hot, I have that door open. You can look straight into the lobby. And I've thought, maybe it's my imagination this, but I'm sure out of the corner of my eye, I've seen what looks like someone at the front door or something like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a form under echoes, really, isn't it?
And, I mean, I used to go to the local spiritualist church, and they actually, because I'd not said anything to them, they actually picked up on this. Oh, you feel like you've seen people, and things in the corner of your eye, and you've thought, oh, am I imagining it? Well, no, you haven't imagined it. I've been told that I can communicate with spirits as well, which I've known since I was a very small child. When I was about, I don't think how old I'd be, and I still can't explain this. When I was about 4 or 5, I think I was. I used to, sometimes I'd go to bed back at home, and I'd be sort of looking around in the dark, and I might have imagined this. See, like, the shadow of, like, my gran over here.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, well, but at the time, bearing in mind I was only about 4 or 5, so I was only a small child, didn't know much about this sort of thing. And I used to think, well, why am I seeing her? Because she's not dead. She's alive. She was very much alive back then. So I've never been able to explain that one, but I did see, or think I saw, like a shadow of her, or like a, I don't know what you'd call it, like an imprint of a...
It's like, it sounds like an imprint.
I don't know what it is.
It's not an echo man, right, is it?
No. There's a lot of things like I've found out and believe in about like reincarnation and stuff, and being able to like be like reincarnated like into 2 or 3 people that coexist in the same lifetime. So it'd be possible to sort of haunt yourself in a way, or haunt like people close to you, but you're still alive.
If you look at this one, and you think they say cats, don't you? The cats have got like they're not human souls. They've got shared souls, haven't they?
I've heard this. I'm an optimistic. Don't know. I do believe that every individual has got a soul, be they human or whatever. But I have read that animals have got shared souls, and that troubles me slightly because I think, well, they're still individuals.
I'm not going to name the person, but you both know who I'm on about. Somebody that lives up the road from where me and Amanda live. She at the time had 2 cats. And you see the 2 cats in the same dream. They're dreaming at the same dream.
Wow.
It's fast.
Connected.
They're connected sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a bit disconcerting, but it's also incredibly cute as well.
Yeah. Oh. So I think what else has happened. I mean, I've seen dead people in my mind's eye because I haven't done it for a while. I really need to get back into it. But I used to meditate a hell of a lot.
Yeah. Didn't you? I know you were a spiritualist at one point, Dave, weren't you?
I used to go to the spiritualist church, yes.
Yeah.
But,
did they pick up anything for you when you used to go to the good church about that?
Well, once I saw my grandma, my mum's mum. So in my mind's eye, I saw. I heard her say my voice, my name. Sorry. So I said, "Who is that?" I said, "You know who it is?" And then I think we were walking down the road, and said, "Tell your mum I'm all right now."
Whoa. I've got a similar story.
Yeah, I have to.
I've got one. I'm not real before. I'm not a man to this one. Mum died when I was 12. I never went to funerals. That time in '84, you look like you didn't go to funerals when you were young kids.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
But she'd gone to hospital 2 days before, and she hadn't been well. And the night she died, I woke up in this sort of weird dream, and I dreamt she'd come in, opened the curtains up for me. Oh. Then my mum walks in, opens the curtain, and your nana died last night.
Well,
so there's something in there.
They do that. I believe it's like, it's not a dream because obviously you're awake, but you can also have something called visitation dreams, which is basically them connecting with you and saying, look, I'm all right now, I'm fine, or to let you know, yeah, I'm off now, but I'm fine. Can you let so-and-so know that everything's fine now? I'm all right, I'm a lot better. That has actually happened with me. Because I had what I thought was a dream once about one of your relatives.
Oh, yeah.
Whose name I'm not going to mention. And they'd fairly recently died. And I dreamt I was for some bizarre reason, I was sat at a computer. Now, whether this person was into computers, I'm not too sure. You probably know better than me. I was sat at a computer and my hands were freezing. I have Raynaud's disease, but that's by the by. And this person came up to me. And they said, oh, you really need to keep yourself a lot warmer. You need to wear gloves a hell of a lot more. So I was like, yeah. But then they turned round to me and they said, can you tell me mum I'm all right now? And I was like, yeah, I can do.
That's weird, isn't it? So it does ask questions, doesn't it, about the human soul, that really. And it's not something any of us can answer. And it's like, it's not the case of what comes next, is what do you look before you move on to the next plane of existence, what happens in between it?
Well, I mean, again, my dad always used to say this, one of my dad's daft jokes, but it's true, no one's been back to tell us. But I believe, because I've read extensively about things like this, and I believe that when the time comes, a relative or relatives come and collect you in a nice way.
I've heard so much. I've heard
they come and collect you, someone you know, someone you feel, you're comfortable with, and they'll take you somewhere, and I believe you they heal you, and you might see a video or something of your life, so you're watching how your life acted out, and you can look at things that you did right, things that you did wrong, all sorts of things, and it's not you shouldn't have done this and you shouldn't have done that and you shouldn't have done the other. It's more a case of, this happened and that happened. But, have you tried to make it better? Have you tried to, right it, I suppose? And then I believe you have a period where you have a bit of a rest because obviously, if you want to call it death, I'd rather call it transition because you're transitioning from being in the physical world to the other side.
Yeah, I do.
So you rest and then, you find your place and we have a right good time up there.
Yeah, you've got a good example of that, man, haven't you? Because obviously you talked about this before. Tell Catherine and Dave about the time you did
the self-regression.
Self-regression, that was it.
Yeah, because I had the CD and I did the self-regression, and the first time I did it, I imagined that I was this German lady, and I felt really scared, and I fled from Germany to the UK, and then I didn't see the life in between that, but I had quite a reasonable life after that, and I died probably in my 70s.
And now you're looking at that, so with you think there probably was a 10-year gap, don't they? Before you came along, didn't you? So
Yeah.
So there was a gap. I think you're right. We see it's like on that one. What do you think, Dave, about that theory? Do you believe that also as well?
I believe in reincarnation. Yes. I don't. I've not done the research that Catherine has. I'm not really into doing much research. But I do believe in reincarnation and regression and having a previous life.
Yeah, I think I do as well. So, but anyway, Paul.
Incidentally, there's something I've just remembered. I don't know whether it's relative, or it might not be relative.
Just
relative. You know what I mean? Whether it's I can't think of the word.
Relevant.
Anyway, relevant. That's the word I want. Thank you. Sorry, I had a bit of a brain fart then. Yeah, quite a number of months ago. Again, I'm not telling specifics about places and people and what have you. But I was meditating one night and my gran appeared in front of me, my maternal gran, that is, who used to live in this house. And there were a lot of things going on at the time, generally, and I saw her and she was stood in front of me, and in front of her she had this picture in her hand. And it was a particular symbol that's quite relevant to the country that she came from. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's really, really interesting. And it was a case of you don't give up. You do not give up on this particular country and these particular people. So, that's odd. So I didn't think much of it. Because at the time everything was up in the air. People were frightened. Things were going on. And nobody knew what was going to happen. People, right at the beginning, had their theories about what would happen. But as the months have gone through, the particular place, there's still stuff going on. But things have happened which people didn't expect to happen in a fairly good way. So I thought, that was quite interesting. It was almost as if she was saying, look, yeah, it is going a bit belly up at the moment, but you don't give up on them. You don't think, right, this is it, bang, it's not going to exist. And it was very interesting how things have developed. And I thought, so that's quite interesting. There's still a long way to go, of course. I'm not denying that.
Well, I've read theories before where they said that we only use about a third of our quarter of our brain. So who knows what other stuff we can learn to do, basically. So.
Yeah, this is, oh gosh, we've had all sorts of weird experiences, haven't we?
You've also been told that your gran sits behind you when you're putting your makeup on.
I was told many years ago that my gran, because my maternal...
Can I quick back?
Yes.
Who told you that?
I
don't have to know names, of course.
No, it's okay. I can't remember her name, to be honest. I went to see a medium in the next town along quite a number of years ago now. And she said to me that when I'm combing my hair, because I've got a dressing table upstairs and what have you, and I usually comb my hair and put my face on there and what have you. And apparently my gran, I don't know if she still does, I mean she might do, I don't know. But at the time, she used to sit behind me and watch me combing my hair and doing my face, which was quite nice to know, quite comforting. But I've sometimes felt like I'm not alone. Like if you're seemingly alone in the house, I felt like I'm not actually alone, but I can't always explain that.
I've heard the theory before now, we've all got guardian angels.
Yes, I believe that.
Whether I've been told also it's not always humans either.
No.
So anyway, we'll wrap up at that point, guys, because that's plenty today. We might have to do a part 2 with Catherine and David.
Oh, crikey.
We're going to fit all kinds of interesting theories next time. But thank you, the pair of you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Amanda.
Cloaked in the shadows. So we had some interesting stories there.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that one, Amanda, isn't it? They want to come back on again, don't they? So, yeah. We were talking to them after we finished that chat. So sometimes, do you think it's nature of the beast, isn't it? Where you talk to people and then they say, oh, I've got more.
Yeah.
So, a plan at the moment is we're going to be having them on again in the future. Not, obviously, this episode or the next one, but we'll come on to that next time. hoping we've got actual witch coming on next time, a white witch that we've both met fairly recently, haven't we? So
Yeah.
I hope she can go with us and we'll talk to her then. Catherine will be on again in the future, so. Okay, now, if people want to speak to us in the meantime,
they can find us through the Facebook page.
Yes, there is going to be other mediums you can contact us on, but certainly at the moment, you can contact us on either our email addresses, can't you? So, my email address is aen1npo@yahoo.co.uk.
And mine is amandasteel35@gmail.com.
Yes, now, all be well, obviously, like I said, we want to do this podcast on a monthly basis. So watch out for us at the beginning of February. And that's it for now, Amanda, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do what we used to do with reading about our book review podcast.
Bye everyone.
See you next time, okay? Take care.
Cloaked in the shadows.